Of the Bombay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I, Gayatri Vinayak, would like to extend a warm welcome to our members and participants who have joined us physically and virtually today. We would also like to welcome and thank our co-sponsor, Union Bank of India, and associate sponsors, State Bank of India, HSBC, SBI Mutual Fund, and SIDBI for supporting this event today. The topic of today's conclave is MSME, Way to Our Future. The MSME sector has gone through many trials and tribulations over the past couple of years, brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic and a lot that has been happening around us. While the post-pandemic revival has been positive, challenges do remain in terms of financing, market access, logistics, and rising input costs, among others. It is with this background that the Bombay Chamber is organizing today's conclave, and we hope today's insightful discussions will initiate more dialogue on this topic. May I now request Mr. Sandeep Khosla, Director General, Bombay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to deliver the opening remarks.
Thank you, Gayatri. Good afternoon, distinguished guests. Our chief guest, Srimati Harsha Bangari, Managing Director, Exim Bank, Council Generals of respected countries. Our President, Mr. Nilesh Shah, Bombay Chamber's Board Member and MSME Expert Committee, our Chairman, Mr. Rajan Raje, distinguished speakers, members of Bombay Chamber Board, ladies and gentlemen who have joined us today, both at the venue as well as virtually, a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. It is deeply saddening and disturbing to hear the loss of many lives and damage of property due to the earthquake in Turkey and Syria. On behalf of the Bombay Chamber, I would like to express my heartfelt condolences to the bereaved families. May the injured recover soon. I request everyone present to observe a minute's silence in respect of the bereaved families. May I request Mr. Hussein Aydin, Commercial Attaché, Consulate General of Turkey, to join me on stage, please. Ladies and gentlemen, 1 minute's silence, please. Thank you. Thank you, sir. A brief about the Bombay Chamber. Established in 1836, the Bombay Chamber of Commerce and Industry is India's oldest chamber and has a long and illustrious history of continuous service to trade and industry. The chamber represents a wide spectrum of highly reputed and professionally run companies which are based in the city of Mumbai, but whose manufacturing facilities and commercial influence spreads across the state of Maharashtra, and in a lot of cases internationally too. The chamber acts as a bridge between civic society, government and its member organization, and aims to promote the interest of all the stakeholders in the overall interest of the country. The chamber's unique selling point is the intellectual capital inherent in its membership. We therefore concentrate on promoting good governance and ethical conduct in business and public life, in addition to ensuring equitable and balanced industry growth of the country. As all members are aware, the Chamber provides a platform to participate in various knowledge sessions, gain access to financial institutions, and meet and interact with visiting trade delegations from various countries. Hence, I would request all those who are not yet members of the Chamber to kindly join the Chamber and be a part of the various offerings that the Chamber offers. My colleague Rajiv Mani would assist you in the same. I assure you that while the benefits are many, the yearly fee is very, very nominal. I have proud privilege to mention that the Chamber playing a role of corporate for change and has undertaken very actively the activities pertaining to sustainable change, ease of doing business, diversity and inclusion, and Mumbai 4.0. The Bombay Chamber of Commerce Industry and the Society of Mumbai Incubation Center to entrepreneur called SMILE, SMILE, an initiative of the Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai, recently signed a memorandum of understanding for mutual cooperation to support civic tech startups. This initiative aims to promote social and economic development in the city by creating an opportunity to nurture, support, and promote the ideas that could potentially become profitable and scalable business ventures generating revenues and employment opportunities in Mumbai. We are glad to announce that Ms. Shashi Bala, CEO of Smile Incubation, is present with us today along with some of the selected incubatees. In case you would want to know more about it, you could meet Ms. Shashi Bala during the break or write to the secretariat so that we can brief you as to how we can all help these incubation centers, which ultimately will help the BMC in a lot of cases, all of us, because we all are by and large from Mumbai city. Regarding this MSME conclave, as we all know, the micro, small and medium enterprise sector in India is a vital component of the country's economy, accounting for a significant share of employment and GDP. However, the COVID-19 pandemic has posed significant challenges for this sector, with many MSMEs facing reduced demand, supply chain disruptions, and difficulty in accessing credit. Our fifth annual Economic Outlook Survey has also illuminated the challenges faced by the MSME sectors and has also listed the recommendations that our MSME participants have for policymakers to facilitate the ease of doing business. In light of the survey and the challenges faced by the sector, we have organized this conclave on the topic MSME, Way to Our Future. Our panel discussions and presentations today will focus on multiple topics, including the opportunities for Indian MSMEs in the world market, with participation of Council Generals as speakers. A key topic of discussion will be access to funding, which is crucial for the survival and growth of MSMEs. Another important issue to be discussed is the supply chain and logistic challenges faced by MSMEs and how they can overcome the same. We will also be dwelling into the union budget and policies around it for the MSME sector. We hope the event will, with various interactive sessions, will offer key takeaways for all stakeholders in the Indian MSME sector. I would also like to express my sincere thanks to our sponsors, co-sponsor, Union Bank of India, associate sponsor, State Bank of India, HSBC, SBI Mutual Fund, and SIDBI. We look forward to continued support for our future events. I would like to once again express my special thanks to our dignitaries, distinguished chief guest, Srimati Harsha Bangari, Council General of respected countries, our chairman, Mr. Nilesh Shah, our chairman of the MSME committee, Rajan Raje, and Dr. Shukla, who's I think just joined us, who's also our chair for our Economic Outlook Committee. I thank all the participants for taking out their time from their busy schedule and joining us today. Request all of you to take the optimum benefit of the sessions by making it interactive. You all can ask questions here. All those who are joining us virtually can post questions in the chat box and we will take it up at the end of every session. I now request our president, Mr. Nilesh Shah, who unfortunately couldn't join us today. He I think is in Delhi, called urgently. Nilesh bhai, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep. Very good afternoon to everyone. Distinguished Chief Guest, Srimati Harsha Bangari, Managing Director, Exim Bank, Consul General.
Nilesh bhai, just a minute. We will just, Nilesh bhai, your sound, I think we're not able to hear you. Just give us a minute. Nilesh bhai, can you hear us?
Yes, Sandeep, I can.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Sandeep. Distinguished Chief Guest, Srimati Harsha Bangari, Managing Director, Exim Bank, Consul Generals of respected countries, speakers, members of Bombay Chamber Board, and respected guests who have joined us today at the venue as well as virtually. I would like to extend my heartiest welcome to each one of you to the MSME conclave of the Bombay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which, as most of you know, is amongst the oldest operating chambers in India. I take this opportunity to thank our keynote speaker, Srimati Harsha Bangari, for kindly accepting our invitation and joining us virtually. On behalf of the Chamber and my own behalf, I would like to express my sincere thanks to our speakers for kindly accepting our invitation and gracing this event and addressing our members on the subject, which is both topical and important: MSME, way to our future. Over the last many decades, the Chamber has played a vital role in the development of city of Mumbai, including facilitating the setting up of the railways, the Bombay Port Trust, and its continuous contribution towards creating an environment conducive to trade and industry in Mumbai and India. This year, with the ongoing 75th year of independence celebrations, we are focusing on technology and innovation as a way of life, and the Chamber's role in improving ease of doing business by acting as a bridge between the business and the regulator, of enhancing growth through appropriate financial structures, and of ensuring that growth is sustainable, equitable, and inclusive. Over the past years, we have organized seminars, webinars, conclaves, and conferences across multiple sectors, from banking and financial services to sustainability, from agriculture to diversity and inclusion, from taxation and legal services to budget, among others. The Chamber has prepared and submitted to the Honorable Finance Minister and other government officials the pre-budget memorandum for FY24. We have held a post-budget webinar where we deliberated on the key amendments in the union budget and the implications on the industry from an economic as well as taxation perspective. The Chamber's representatives had a very successful post-budget interaction with the Honorable Finance Minister recently, where we congratulated the Honorable FM on a growth multiplier budget with more than expected allocation to infrastructure, tax cut for boosting consumption, and yet pursuing the path of fiscal prudence. The Bombay Chamber had a large representation at the meeting, and we were thankful to the Finance Minister for allowing our members to ask more questions. We trust that our recommendations will help the government to identify some emerging issues that need to be tackled by taking appropriate measures. The Chamber also concluded the fifth Economic Outlook Survey, which saw a great response from our large participant base, including MSMEs as well as large enterprises. Through the survey, we have presented insights and shared data procured from our member organizations, providing a broad-based analysis of the macroeconomic state of India. Held in the background of a volatile economic and changing geopolitical environment, the survey has thrown illuminating insights into the challenges that the businesses, both large and small, suffers and faces. The survey had also formed the backdrop for our conclave today. The past couple of years has been turbulent one for the MSME sector. After 2 years of economic stress brought on by the pandemic-induced lockdown, the sector is showing signs of revival. The credit growth for MSME sector year to date is running at almost double the pace of bank credit growth. Maybe there are good days ahead for the MSME sector. The budget has continued to support MSME sector by creating a 9,000 crore fund and creating credit flow of up to 2 lakh crore. Undoubtedly, the sector faces several challenges such as access to finance, access to market, lack of technology adoption, and difficulty in complying with ever-changing regulations. To overcome these challenges, the government and private sector will need to work together to create an ecosystem that supports MSME and helps them to thrive. It is with this background that the Bombay Chamber, a pioneer in supporting the development of trade and commerce under the aegis of the MSME committee, is organizing this conclave. I am sure you will be eagerly awaiting to hear our keynote speaker. I now hand over to our Compli Gayatri, who will introduce our keynote speaker for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we move on to our keynote speaker, we would also be having a presentation on the fifth Economic Outlook Survey. I request Dr. Sachchidanand Shukla, Chairman, Economic Policy Research and Development, Bombay Chamber, and Chief Economist, Mahindra and Mahindra, who has joined us virtually today, to kindly set the theme of the conclave and present the outcome of the survey. We will also be releasing the survey post the keynote address. Thank you.
Thank you, Gayatri. Thank you, Nilesh bhai. Thank you, Bombay Chamber. I will just put up the key highlights of this flagship survey, and please let me know if you can see it on the screen over there.
Yes.
Is this visible?
Yes.
Right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be sharing the highlights of Bombay Chamber of Commerce and Industry's fifth Economic Outlook Survey. I regret I'm unable to do this in person, and it's entirely my loss. Just as a backdrop of this survey, like President just said, the last couple of years have been very difficult for the global economy and indeed for Indian economy as well. As we know, the pandemic was once in a 100-year kind of a shock. We hope na bhuto na bhavishyati. And also it was followed by a very tough geopolitical backdrop. The war in Ukraine continues. And even as we speak, there are tensions between US and China, and then there are tensions between Israel and Iran. And then we have not probably seen the end of the geopolitical turmoil in the world. So with that backdrop, I must tell you that when we started the survey, the last year we were really surprised. And even this year, the fifth Economic Outlook Survey, we are very positively surprised to see the same trend, and the trend is that of resilience, right? So despite challenges, our participants, especially MSMEs, continue to grow and have shown robust numbers and results. So with this, I just walk you through the highlights. So as you can see with this slide, globally, the world is in a spot of bother, as you can see, right? Advanced economies growth rate is going to be slowing. It halved in 2022 from 2021. Even 2023, and these are multilateral forecasts, depends on which number or which forecaster you look at. But the theme is that global growth is going to be slowing, and within that, advanced economy growth rate is going to be halving. And you can see on the right-hand side, as shown by manufacturing PMIs, India remains a consistent performer and outlier. With 6.8% kind of a growth number, India is going to be the fastest major economy of its size. And more importantly, on the right-hand side, the line chart that you see, India's growth differential with vis-a-vis the rest of the world or advanced economies is as high as it was in the heydays of the 2004 to 2008 time period, and which is very, very important going ahead. Nilesh bhai spoke about what the budget has really announced. I will just add to that today's monetary policy, the RBI, basically enhanced the scope of trades, right? It has proposed to expand the scope by providing insurance facility for invoice financing, permitting all entities undertaking factoring business to participate as financiers, and permitting rediscounting of invoices. So what the budget did, the RBI today has just imparted a positive nudge again today. Coming now to the findings of the survey, I think very clearly, sorry, bulk of these larger enterprises that we have who have responded believe that there are chances of a global recession, and it's very interesting that people are now talking about either a recession for whichever economy you talk about, or globalization, right? In the end, it's basically the same effect, that global growth impetus for the domestic economy is going to be far lower. When we ask our respondents whether the Russia-Ukraine war has impacted international trade activity, we actually see that there is a larger impact on the larger enterprises, which is obviously intuitive, right? Whereas MSMEs have not been really impacted as badly. Maybe the reason is they're not as linked to the global value chains. MSMEs, interestingly, have reported higher export volume growth over value. This is opposite of what the larger entities have shown, right? They have shown higher value growth, not so much volume, so which is very interesting. And nearly, say, 57-58% of MSMEs have reported growth in business, which is again very heartening. If you compare this with, say, some of these larger entities, I think this is something that we feel really happy or positive about. Obviously, this ECLGS scheme has helped. We have seen the budget also announce some things, and like I said, the RBI as well. While this has benefited the MSMEs because it was tailor-made for them, but a lower percentage of larger enterprises, uh, because they have better access to finance, etc. MSMEs, nearly 40% of the respondents that we have reported difficulties in maintaining liquidity and access to credit, as Nilesh Bhai also pointed out, has been a problem. And yet, you can see on the right-hand side, President also mentioned about credit growth in MSMEs really outpacing that of industry or the say average credit growth by a fair margin, and then you can see that on the line chart over here. This is one thing, and where dispute resolution and arbitration availed by MSMEs remains a challenge. And then there are multiple reasons, and I think our Director General, being part of some of these things, he can probably add a little more later on as the event progresses. But nearly 80%, 78 to 80% of MSMEs have not been able to avail of any dispute resolution or arbitration service. Um, our respondents, the MSME side, basically reported that they face discriminatory practices from e-commerce and multiple other facets, which I think, because of paucity of time, we'll probably not discuss here. But they do face discriminatory practices. This is now very interesting, coming towards the fag end of our findings. MSMEs are also facing challenges in terms of attractive new talent. Manpower is the new battlefield. And this is the same that we've seen in IT services, say last year, and moving on to other, say, parts of the industry, manufacturing and other places. And I think that the battles of the future are going to be fought over not just technology, but also manpower. And this remains a key takeaway for us. And I think some of these schemes, including that of Z certification or the capital deepening that we are seeing will continue to pose problems on this front. Um, do we have time, Gayatri, or I've already run out of time? So I just leave you with this snippet of the issues that our respondents really face, which is more like a summary of the findings. As you get your hands on the copy of this survey, you'll find multiple other interesting things or highlights. I probably end there, and thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, sir, for providing us the details of the survey. Today, it is our privilege to have with us our keynote speaker, Srimati Harsha Bangari, Managing Director, Exim Bank, who's also joining us virtually. Srimati Bangari is the Managing Director of Exim Bank. Prior to this, she was the Deputy Managing Director and Chief Financial Officer of the bank. Having joined the India Exim Bank in 1995, Srimati Bangari is a seasoned finance professional with experience of more than 27 years in the financial sector and has thorough knowledge of the bank's processes and business policies across functions, covering all products of the bank, including cross-border project financing, as well as risk management, client servicing, and liability side management, including treasury functions and foreign currency resources. Her areas of interest include international debt capital markets and international project finance, where she has an operational experience of more than 14 years. Ms. Bangari is a Bachelor of Commerce and a Chartered Accountant. Over to you, ma'am.
Ma'am, you are on mute. We are not able to hear you.
Ma'am, you're on mute, ma'am. Ma'am, sorry, we can't hear you. Would you be able to disconnect and join back again? Thank you.
Hello, am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am, you are. Thanks.
Sorry, however much advancement we do at technology always fails us on time. My apologies, sincere apologies for wasting the time of the August gathering. Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to thank Mr. Nilesh Shah and Mr. Sandeep Khosla for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here, and my apologies for not being there physically. I had to be in Delhi. I think, like my other colleagues, I had to be in Delhi for some important government meeting, which I couldn't say no. Uh, before I start, I would also like to thank Mr. Shukla. It's always a pleasure to have an economist speaking before you, because he's covered most of the ground, and the backdrop is set so beautifully. But then the disadvantage is there's not much I can say. So I'll just try to, maybe my subject is on world economy. I'm trying to connect world economy with Indian economy, then trying to bring in the contribution of the MSME in the world economy, as well as the Indian economy, and then how there are so many potential and potential for the MSME to contribute more, and the potential for MSME to grow. Uh, so, starting with the global growth, the outlook on global growth has improved in recent times, despite persistent geopolitical uncertainties and the impact of monetary policy tightening by central banks across the world. Uh, However, still we feel that the global growth will decelerate during 2023. This deceleration in growth is expected to have an impact on MSME sector, which remains the backbone of many economies, providing employment and driving economic growth. MSME sector accounts for 90% of the businesses and 60 to 70% of employment, with 50% of GDP worldwide. When we look at MSMEs in India, MSMEs are the backbone of Indian economy, and they account for nearly 30% of India's GDP. Now, when we compare this with the global contribution of the MSMEs, there's adequate scope for the MSMEs to contribute more and more to the GDP of the country. When we talk about numbers, with more than 63 million MSMEs spread across the geographical expanse of India, it is also the second largest employer, providing jobs to over 120 million people. With respect to India's growth, the economy is expected to grow by 6.8% in the current FI, and which is the fastest amongst the major economies. Enhancing the participation of MSMEs will be critical for overall exports and manufacturing growth in the countries. MSMEs not only play crucial role in providing large employment opportunities at comparatively lower cost of capital, but it also helps in industrialization of rural and backward areas, thereby reducing regional imbalances and assuring more equitable distribution of national income and wealth. There has also been a marked increase in contribution of MSMEs to the Indian exports, which actually went up from 43% in 2011-12 to 49% in recent years. This signifies that the Indian MSMEs are becoming globally competitive, and their products and services are being accepted overseas. However, as global economies, including Indian economy, are facing high inflation, the MSMEs in India, which constitute almost 30% of India's GDP, become the first to bear the brunt of high inflation. High inflation has led to an increase in the cost of raw materials and their operating expenses, which has hit the profit margins of MSMEs. The upcoming months are crucial for MSMEs, as these enterprises will have to focus on ways to increase their efficiency and competitiveness. I'm from Exim Bank, so I keep veering towards exports, but there's a substantial scope for MSMEs to further enhance their export contribution. Now, this can be done by leveraging the recent supply chain dynamics, as well as benefiting from the linkages with larger multilateral firms, which have been attracted by the Government of India in technology intensive sectors through incentives such as the production linked incentive schemes. As per India Exim Bank estimates, Indian MSME's untapped potential in merchandise exports stands at nearly $118.9 billion. There exists significant export potential for MSMEs in sectors such as auto components, healthcare and pharmaceuticals, chemicals, dyes and pigments, ceramics, textiles and garments, and food products, amongst others. Also, exports to the European and US markets are expected to increase due to China plus one strategy of international players. Now, again, the geopolitical nobody can control. So, as Mr. Shukla was mentioning earlier, European markets, when they will open up, but there's definitely a shift we are seeing in terms of the preference of the advanced economies for Indian products. Now, coming to the challenges which the MSMEs face is one need which MSME sector needs to understand is that they need to move towards high technology product categories if they want to penetrate the global value chains. However, MSMEs GVC, that is global value chain participation, is constrained due to factors such as technology gap, skill gap, lack of marketing effectiveness, and constrained access to finance, amongst others. Technology is increasingly seen as a business enabler and vital tool for bringing in process efficiencies and a higher degree of standardization, which are critical for participation in these global value chain. Limited innovation, low value addition, and poor packaging due to low level of technology adoption could be some of the key factors which could impact MSME exports and linkages in value chains. Also, the competitive international market environment is something which MSMEs will have to get adapted to. There is pressures from countries exporting similar products at more competitive pricing. Competitors such as Bangladesh and Vietnam are able to sell products at lower prices owing to the lower cost of production. With multiple sourcing strategies closer to the point of sale or use gaining prominence in the wake of pandemic, Indian MSMEs are also likely to benefit. Coming to marketing, the MSMEs may not have the strategic tools and the means for business development and digital marketing, unlike large enterprises, which limits their access to lead firms in supply chains. According to one of the reports of Asian Development Bank, less than 6% of Indian MSMEs with access to personal computers advertise online, while a majority of MSMEs use traditional media for marketing. Access to finance has always been the bane of MSME in both trade finance as well as export credit. And access to affordable finance continues to be a critical factor in promoting exports and growth of MSMEs. Some of the barriers to greater access to finance to MSMEs include higher risk perception. Now I'm talking like a banker, and limited awareness about the government schemes, amongst others. Non-banking financial institutions, including microfinance institutions, provide a viable alternate source of MSME funding, although they remain small in scale. Equity markets dedicated to MSMEs have supported growth capital funding, but they also remain at a nascent stage in India. Based on their strategic importance, MSMEs clearly require robust support in terms of resources and technology. Exports from India, especially the MSME exports, can be increased by enhancing the capabilities of Indian companies and developing their international competitiveness. In this background, special attention needs to be given to improve the competitiveness and technology upgradation endeavors. Now, coming to the Government of India, creating a conducive environment for MSMEs, recognizing significant contribution of MSMEs, the government has put in place several measures to enhance the exports by MSMEs by boosting liquidity, help them take benefit of the government schemes, and enable them to compete with foreign companies and strengthen their network. India Exim Bank, through its financing programs, is committed to improving competitiveness of Indian firms, and the bank has taken multiple initiatives in the SME sector over the years. India Exim Bank's Government of India supported lines of credit, which we extend to the foreign governments, serve as a market entry mechanism to Indian exporters, and provide a safe mode of non-recourse finance option to Indian exporters. I would really encourage all the companies or all the August gathering here to please have a look and try to benefit from these schemes. There is also schemes of Exim Bank which provides financing to your buyers who are located in foreign markets. We also have a Ubharte Sitare program, and my colleagues from the bank are there in the audience, and they, I think, have a session in the afternoon. But our Ubharte Sitare program identifies Indian companies with potential advantages by way of technology, product, or process, and helps them to turn into future champions. Under the program, we are supporting several companies with technological advantages in emerging segments such as drones and energy powered cold storage. In conclusion, given the fact that the MSME sector contributes significantly to exports, it is essential that they should be integrated with GVC to remain competitive, as it offers unique opportunity to become technologically and digitally empowered. Being part of the global value chain would enable MSMEs to produce quality goods and services, which will have greater acceptability in the global market. With respect to the financing, digital lending is expected to play one of the important roles for filling the financing gap. At the same time, it will be important for the MSMEs to focus increasingly on branding. As the global order has changed significantly in the last 3-4 years, it is important that the MSMEs deal and prepare with this new world and dynamic world order with new innovative business approaches and technologies. With this, I would like to conclude and wishing the event all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that very insightful presentation. We open the floor for discussions and for questions in case anybody has. Virtually and physically, if any one of our participants online or here have any questions for ma'am. Mic, please.
See, it appears there is a mushroom growth of many MSMEs because all the youngsters get attracted to going for some small business to start with, but later on they are not able to sustain or grow. So what is the suggestion and what motivation should be given to them or facilities which may be lacking at present? I'm Pramod Shah, former chairman of the Institute of Company Secretary of India and member of Bombay Chamber since last 3 decades. Thank you.
Thank you, Gayatri. If I can request you to maybe repeat the question because I couldn't get the question.
Sure. The question was, what guidance can you provide to motivate youngsters to enter into the MSME sector and set up their businesses? If I've understood it correctly.
Those who entered should be sustained,
And how to sustain the players who have already entered in the business in the MSME sector, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not expert on MSME, but I'll just try to maybe give some inputs on this. So when we talk about youngsters and MSME, I think you have picked the right chord. We are seeing in recent times a huge growth in the startup, and we are seeing also startups being financed. And that is a very good indicator for the MSMEs to grow because the banks can only finance, but the entrepreneurship has to come from the individual. So we are seeing increasingly youngsters stepping into their own businesses, and they of course start as MSME, and we hope that they evolve into a large enterprise. How do they sustain themselves? I can again talk like a banker here because when we look at an MSME, typically the assessments or the appraisal mechanisms, a little bit of discomfort or I would say a risk which permeates from an MSME financing is maybe in terms of the financial documents or the financial statements and the disclosures thereof. So I would really request, and especially when it is a closely held company, there may not be a regulatory need to have adequate disclosures or preparation of financial statements. But if that is something which can be adopted as a good governance or a good practice, I think that can then bring lots of comfort in terms of the in the financier to start financing and looking at projects. The other thing is, as Exim Bank, we have started collaborating with the technology or the academia, what we call, where we collaborate with them and we then provide them with assistance when they are supporting innovation or entrepreneurship. So also, if you we have some programs where we talk about marketing assistance program. For example, as Exim India, we have a global reach, and we help Indian companies. For example, if there is some information you need on some in some markets, or you need to identify some partners. So these type of advisory activities are also undertaken by the bank. In terms of sustainability, I think I would say that we need to be financially. I would say basically we have to be disciplined in terms of that financial discipline, and also leverage becomes an issue. So many times we don't encourage MSMEs to go for a very high leverage. So in times when there is a degrowth, or in times when the revenues take a hit, at least your interest cost should not be such that you move into negative territory. So I think my request would be, and one request, of course, in the MSME, and when we look at the MSME sector, is that most of our MSMEs are not price givers. They are price takers. What it means is that typically in India, we are suppliers of low val add products. And because of that, we are subject to the recessionary trends or the commodity prices in the global markets. The endeavor of Exim Bank is to encourage MSMEs in the high tech sector, where the MSMEs have some technological edge, and then they become prize givers and not takers. So I don't know. This is my bit of inputs, but happy to elaborate in case if I've not been able to answer your question.
Thank you so much, ma'am.